the more they get to know each other, the stranger things get, which is kind of weird if they're already engaged. I guess obviously I don't have the brain of a man. Hey y'all, I'm Rylan. Welcome to my channel. I'm here today to start a new reading vlog. This one is very much themed. I'll be reading from one author, 3 books by them, 2 of their oldest published works, and their most recent release that came out last week at the time that I'm filming this introduction. If you have been watching my channel for the last couple months, you may or may not have noticed that I've talked about Freida McFadden a lot. Some positive, some not so positive, but I have been reading a lot of her books recently, and I have been finding some more that I have enjoyed versus when I first started reading her and I wasn't really enjoying most of the books that I picked up. So I thought today it'd be kind of fun to do a little themed vlog where I read 2 of the author's oldest books and the author's newest release, and kind of just see where I gravitate with this author, and if I do tend to like most of her books that I pick up, or maybe not so much. I thought it'd be fun to kind of compare and see the growth that has happened over the course of the years that this author has been writing. I looked up Freida McFadden's author list and all the books that she has written, and there were 3 books in a series that I didn't quite feel interested in reading. So these are 2 of her oldest standalones that I have not yet read. I think technically her oldest standalone, which I believe is called Suicide Med or something like that. I'll have it here on the screen. I have read that one. I believe it is her oldest standalone. I gave this book 1 star or 2 stars. I really did not like it. But I have enjoyed a lot of Freida McFadden books recently compared to when I first started reading her, and I just find her so very bingeable. So I thought that this could be a very fun vlog to test out as I pick up 2 of her oldest standalone releases. First up is Freida McFadden's second oldest standalone release, and that is Brain Damage. This is a thriller about a dermatologist whose name is Charlie. She gets shot in the head and she lives, but she loses everything, I guess. She has to try to remember what happened on the night that she was shot and try to figure out who is responsible for trying to kill her. So that's the first book that I'll be reading. I'm going to go in order of publication with these 3 books, so this will be first up on my list. Plan to start it hopefully very soon. Next, I have The Ex. This says, if you thought she was gone, think again. But this is about our female protagonist whose name is Cassie, and she meets this really great guy, but turns out he has an ex who is a little bit interesting, and Cassie thinks that this ex-girlfriend is out of their lives forever, but turns out that might not be the case. I do tend to go into my thrillers more blind than not, so that's all I'm going to say about these 2. I don't want to know anything else about them. And then to close out the vlog, I will be reading Freida's newest book, which is The Tenant. This one came out in early May, and this one is actually following a male protagonist, which I don't think I've read yet from Freida McFadden. I have seen male POVs occasionally, but most of her stories are told through the female lens. So this one will be very interesting to see kind of how she approaches that. It kind of reminds me of Riley Sager in that way, who tends to write female characters as well. And then his most recent release that came out last summer was written from the perspective of a man. So I think it's very interesting that some authors tend to only write one perspective, but this one is about our main character whose name is Blake, and he is fired from his very high-end job and is unable to make payments on this townhouse that he has with his fiance, and we have his fiance also living with him, and it turns out that maybe she is hiding something, and the more they get to know each other, the stranger things get, which is kind of weird if they're already engaged, but it says he shares a brownstone, a townhouse with his fiance, so I don't really know, but I don't want to know too much about it. I do tend to prefer my thrillers, and really all my books, just not knowing a ton about the synopsis and just kind of diving in to see what the experience ends up being. So I'll be reading these 3 thrillers by Freida over the next several weeks, probably the next 2 or 3 weeks, and just binging her books and reading some of her oldest books and then reading her newest release and kind of trying to figure out from here how I feel about the author. I think I've read 9 or 10 books by Freida at this point, and I've given 4 of them 4 stars or higher, and the rest of them have been 3, 2, or 1 star. So right now I very much am like in the middle about her books, but I thought this would be a very fun themed vlog to do and just an excuse to binge more of her books and kind of figure out how I feel about the author. So I'll check back in here every 50% most likely. So once I get halfway through Brain Damage, I will hop back in here with an update, give y'all a better synopsis idea and my thoughts on the book. Kind of nervous about her oldest books. I think those are the ones I've tended to not enjoy as much, but we'll see. It should be an exciting time.
I was a lonely silhouette, needed somebody to show the way. Yeah, I was a heartbeat with no sound till you came around. Yeah, you showed me colors, light in the darkness. You were the only thing.
Hello y'all. I wanted to hop in here with my first update for Brain Damage by Freida McFadden. As of nap time earlier today with my kiddos, I have officially reached the 50% mark, and I am very curious about this one and honestly have no idea what direction it's going to go in. This is a thriller about our main character, whose name is Charlie. She is a dermatologist and ends up somehow getting shot in the head, and so in present time she is in rehab and does not remember the night that she was shot and what happened to her. So we're following her in the present time during her recovery and kind of trying to put the pieces back together to find out what happened, and then following her past leading up to this moment in her life. And there are a lot of questions, a lot of things that we don't know yet, and I don't quite know if what I'm thinking is going to be too direct in terms of a plot twist, or if what I'm thinking is the right answer in terms of who shot this doctor. And if I'm right, then that's way too easy. So I really have no idea what to expect with this one. It's not super intense or fast paced, I would say. I have a couple of tabs in it just to kind of keep note of suspicious things that are said both in the past and the present timelines, to see if that helps provide hints at what the plot is going to be and who's going to be behind this thing that happened to our doctor. Honestly, I feel very middle of the road about it in terms of intensity and excitement and just how I am enjoying the book. Yes, I want to keep going, but I don't necessarily feel like I need to sit down and like finish it right now because I have to know what happened, if that makes sense. So my goal is to finish it up in the next couple days, and we'll see. I'm not disliking it as much as I thought I might, just because it is one of her first standalone releases and I haven't liked her other older standalone releases. So far it's fine enough. I'm having an alright time, and I will be interested to see what happens in the end. So I'll hop into another update very soon. Not a ton to say. I do feel like with her books a lot of times it's better to go in blind and not knowing a ton, so like I hesitate to give away too much in my updates, but so far it's okay. I don't always love the like medical setting. That and like police investigative stories aren't my favorite tropes with thrillers for whatever reason, but I don't hate it here at all, and I'm just waiting for like more twists and turns and like more thrilling things to happen. So we'll see, but it is a quick read also, which I always appreciate with her books. And yeah, I don't know, we'll see what happens by the end of the story. Hello y'all, long time no see. It feels like it's been like probably a week since I have last updated this vlog. We've got some progress on the bookshelves behind me, which is very exciting. I'm hoping we can start painting them within the next week or so, because it's already almost June and I am going to be moving all my stuff into my fiance's house very soon, which is crazy. We get married so quickly and time is just flying, so much happening. But we're here, we're reading still, we're surviving, we're making it. I officially do not work full-time anymore, at least not for the next couple months, as I prepare to get married, job search, get my life all organized and figured out. So that's exciting. Made it through my last school year as a preschool teacher, and it was very bittersweet. But I'm here today to talk about Brain Damage because I have officially finished it as of last week. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I enjoyed it a lot more than her debut standalone thriller that I read several months ago. I very strongly disliked that book. This one was fun. There weren't any super intense, like, oh my gosh, jaw-dropping moments with this one for me personally. However, I did find myself very interested in what was going on. I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to see what would happen with our main character, whose name is Charlie, and some of the other patients in the hospital with her at the time of her recovery. And I wanted to know the truth and figure out why this happened to her. I did enjoy this one. Very much not my favorite by Freida McFadden, but also not my least favorite either. So pretty middle of the road, very low intensity for any new thriller readers out there who might want to check out her stuff. Nothing super crazy happens. Yes, this woman is shot in the head at the beginning of the book, but there's not a ton of graphic horror, like gross violence and those types of darker elements in this one. It was pretty standard, pretty light, I guess I would say, all things considered, and it was very enjoyable. I liked it. Didn't love it, but I liked it better than I thought it would. It does very much bring me back to kind of that clunkier and cringier writing style that I think sometimes authors grow into the more that they do write. There were some very cringy lines in this one, some very childish or childlike moments for adult characters to be saying and thinking, but it didn't bother me too much. I did fly through it as I always do with Freida's books, and yeah, had a very good time with it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just jump into her other oldest release that I have, which is The Ex, which says, if you thought she was gone, think again. I think I'm going to read her 2 oldest books first, and then we'll close this vlog reading her newest release, which was The Tenant. Which was The Tenant. Came out a few weeks ago. Very excited about this one. Turns out my mom has also been reading a lot of Freida McFadden books recently, which I think is very exciting and very cool. So I am looking forward to this one a lot. But before I can jump into that one, it's time to read The Ex. This is about a woman named Cassie who thinks that she has met the perfect man. Joel is all she thinks that she could ever want in life, but his ex-girlfriend is somehow still involved in the picture, and I don't know what happens after that, but his ex is not completely gone, and we'll see what happens. I like it when the synopses are very vague and don't give a lot of information. I do prefer to go into my books blind. I say that with every book that I read, or every book that I talk about on here mostly, but it's true. I do enjoy just kind of jumping on for the ride and seeing what happens. So planning to start this one today. I need to finish up my current read first for book club, and then I'll be starting this one right afterward, hopefully, and I'll hop back in here with a 50% update. I'll probably do some light tabbing in this one as well, just for any notes and things like that that I want to keep track of, so I can update y'all later on in this video. But we'll chat soon, and hopefully I enjoy The Ex as well. Hello y'all. I wanted to hop in with another update. This time I am officially halfway through The Ex. I'm off work today, currently doing some live sprints with Aylin before some people come to our house to do some work, and I've been binging this book. Such a quick read. I started it yesterday and I've probably read all 160 pages of this book within like maybe an hour and a half. Super bingeable, super quick, and I am very curious to see what's going to happen in this one. I know I gave a very brief synopsis at the beginning of this this portion of the video reading this book, but I'll give a little bit of a better explanation now that I know what the book is about, just based off what I have personally read. But this is a thriller that follows our 2 POVs, Cassie, who is Joel's new girlfriend, and Francesca, who is Joel's ex-girlfriend. So we get their rotating POVs, the back and forth as the new girl and the ex, as their chapters indicate. And Cassie and Joel are very new. She is very young, almost 10 years younger than he is, and they're very infatuated with each other, but she has some secrets that we do not know about quite yet. There's something very off about her
descriptions and thoughts about her apartment and what is inside of her apartment and her financial troubles that she is going through right now and the things that she has done to stay where she's at in life with owning this dying bookstore and things like that. So her chapter is a little bit mysterious. We're not quite sure what's going on. And while she's dating this guy, Joel, who is a very wealthy older doctor who's in his late 30s, she is also learning more about his ex-girlfriend who keeps getting brought up by Joel's friends when they're all together and things like that. So we're following her perspective and her thoughts and her trying to figure out who Francesca is and why everyone always talks about her and does she measure up, and also having secrets of her own. At the same time, we're following Francesca, who has not stopped stalking Joel on a tracking app and finds out about this new girl that he's dating and feels very inadequate and is starting to stalk both Joel and Cassie. Both of our female main characters have big secrets. No idea what the secrets are. I have no idea, literally none, about what to expect in terms of the second half of the book, but it is very, very interesting so far, more so than Brain Damage, I would say. So right now I'm enjoying this one more. Also, it's very different, of course, with just the setting and the nature of the plot, of course, but I've noticed, and maybe this is more of her older books, they do tend to focus on something in the medical realm. So the first book, Brain Damage, that I read takes place in a hospital with a dermatologist who has been shot in the head. This one, Joel is a doctor, all of his friends are doctors, they live in New York City, and there's a lot of doctor things going on that are just brought up a lot, and I do find that interesting that so many of her books feature that. But also, I guess maybe it makes sense because Freida used to be a surgeon, I believe, before starting to write books. So I think she kind of shifts away from that in her further thrillers. But right now with her earlier works, we are still very much focused on medical characters, mentions of hospitals, and things like that. I cannot even tell you right now what I think the plot twist could be. I don't want to think too hard about it. I'm kind of just enjoying the ride. Is the writing very clunky and like awkward and choppy at times? Yes. But I'm not really letting that slow me down. If anything, it's making the book read a little bit faster, and I am flying through it. So we'll see what the second half of the book brings. I am tabbing all like the shady one-liners throughout the book, so I'll be curious to see how it ends. No thoughts really, all vibes. I am enjoying it more so than Brain Damage, and I cannot wait to see what happens. But goal is to finish it up by the end of this month. It's May 29th right now, so I've got 2 full days left to finish it. I think I can do that though, so I'll hop back in here very soon though, and we'll see what my final thoughts are.
Good afternoon, y'all. I'm here with an update because I finished The X last night just in time to wrap up my May TBR. It is officially somehow June 1st, and here I am. We're still working on this vlog, but we are making it. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I thought I was going to really enjoy it. This book is kind of unhinged, honestly, and I was here for it. The plot twist, did not see that coming at all. Very much shocked me. But after there was a very big reveal, the last 50 pages or so of the book were kind of confusing in the timeline, because the timeline that we believe to be happening throughout the first 85% of the book changes and becomes a little bit more unclear in the last several chapters of the book, and it was kind of confusing, and I felt like I had to think a lot more in that last chunk of the book than I had to for the entire rest of the book. And by the end I was kind of just like, my brain hurts. Am I thinking too hard about this, and do I know the truth, because I'm having to think so hard about the timeline, about who the actual characters are and like what is happening. So I enjoyed the first 85, the first 300 pages of this book or so, the first 285, but the last little bit of it really confused me, honestly. Is this kind of unhinged though? Yes. Is that kind of super fun? Also yes. So very much enjoyed this. The stakes in this book were a lot higher, I felt. A lot more of an intense plot line than Brain Damage right here. So this one very much felt more like a thriller that I would gravitate toward. Otherwise, a thriller that I would also recommend more so than Brain Damage maybe, but both of these were very interesting. They very much held my attention, so I'm surprised and happy by that. However, we are now jumping ahead almost 10 years, I believe, from the time that these two books were published, and finally getting to The Tenant. This is Freida's newest release. It came out in early May, and I'm very intrigued by this one. I have high hopes for it because I have really enjoyed her most recent release before this one. I gave that one 4 stars, very much enjoyed it, had such a fun and easy time with it. So I'm not quite sure if I'm setting my bar too high for her newer books now, or if this one will end up being just as fun as The Crash, which was her newest release before this one. So I'm not gonna give y'all a synopsis right now. I kind of want to jump into it blind. I know I gave a very brief one when I first started this video, I believe, but I'm not gonna reread it. We're just gonna go ahead and hop into it. I was a silly goose and did not put this book on my June TBR, but I do plan to read it this week. Should be a very quick and easy read, as all of her books always are. But I'll hop back in here next time with a synopsis and my thoughts on it. We'll be very curious to see how this lines up with her older thrillers, having read them like back to back and so close to each other. We'll be very curious to see what this one is all about. I don't think that most of her newer books are medical related either, so that'll be kind of different because both of these books have that element in them and this one does not, I don't think. So that is definitely a change of pace from her older books to her newer ones. So yeah, I'll hop in very soon with my first update, hopefully at some point early in this week. It's June 1st somehow. I don't know how it is, but it is. And I will let y'all know very soon what this one is all about. Hello y'all. I have been in a car dealership for the last hour or so. Just made it home, very glad to be done with that. And I'm here because I have reached the 50% mark in The Tenant. I did so while sitting at the car dealership, which I'm very impressed with myself for because it was very loud, but I don't like putting my earbuds in because I want to make sure that I can hear if they need me for something. So it's a whole paranoia thing, but I'm here because I am officially on chapter 30 of The Tenant. First and foremost, I do want to say I can very much tell that this is Freida's newest release compared to the other two books that I have read. The plot, the writing is a lot eerier than the other two books that I've read in this vlog. There's something that's not quite right about our main character. He is very unlikable in my opinion, but I can't quite put my finger on why yet. So it's a very gripping mystery. We have unlikable characters, we have a very weird roommate who is up to shady things, but Blake, our main character, also the first time that I've read a male character from Freida, which I think is very interesting, at least for like one of the main voices in the book, and in this case he's the only voice in the book right now. But anyway, we follow our main character Blake, and he's living in this brownstone. He recently lost his job, was accused of stealing from his company, and is fired. He lives at this brownstone with his fiance, and they're not making enough money to afford it on their own, and so they bring in a tenant to stay on the 3rd floor. Their tenant seems great at first, but very weird things start happening, and it's gotten to the point where Blake's relationship with his fiance is crumbling, and he believes that Whitney, the tenant, is behind everything weird that has gone on in their house. So we are following him and his dislike of Whitney, and some very odd comments that we have about him, and maybe some things that we're not being told fully right now. And it's very, very creepy, much more so than especially Brain Damage, which I would consider a very introductory thriller. This one is very eerie, creepy. I have no idea what to expect, which I do feel like happens often with her books. I just don't know what to expect with them and like what to even guess might happen in the second half of the book. But this one is very eerie. I do like it a lot. I could not tell you right now what I think the truth is, what I think is going to happen with Whitney, what she's up to, and what is actually going on. No idea, which is a good thing. I'm kind of just here for the ride. I do think that Freida is kind of leaning too hard into the thoughts that she thinks a man might have as a main character. There are a lot of comments about women's bodies and women's legs. Nothing overly graphic yet, but also like a little bit too much, I think. I guess obviously I don't have the brain of a man, but
I just feel like it's a little bit over the top in this book and not necessary all the time. So that's like my one qualm with this book so far, but otherwise I am very much enjoying it. I hope to binge it by Friday afternoon. That's my goal. Should be easy enough. I've read 80 pages today already, so I do expect to wrap this one up very quickly, but we'll chat once again when I finish it, and we'll see kind of where this lines up with her oldest releases. This book is actually crazy. I just reached page 235 and all I have to say is I have no idea what's happening. Did not see the first plot twist coming at all. This book is crazy. I feel like I've probably already worn this shirt several times in my vlog updates for this video, but I don't really care. I just got it and I'm obsessed with it, and I like wearing bookish shirts whenever the heck I can. I am finally here to share that I have finished The Tenant by Freida McFadden, and oh my goodness, y'all, I think this is probably my second favorite book that I've read by her. I'm giving this one 4.5 stars. Not quite a 5-star read for me. A little bit of that I mentioned in my last official update where I kind of talked about the idea of writing a male main character and just some of the unnecessary thoughts that I think were included in this book for the sake of emphasizing that our main character was a man. But I don't think that you really needed to have those like thoughts about women's legs and women's bodies and things like that in this one. And it was like a little bit overdone. Maybe that's also realistic to real life, I don't know, but I just thought it was like a little bit unnecessary and over the top and kind of annoying the more times that I read it in this book, the further I got along in it. But the mystery and plot twists honestly were so unexpected, blew me out of the water. If you're looking for a book about suspense with characters that you really cannot trust, even if you get multiple perspectives, I would recommend this one. All of these characters are hiding things. They are all pretty unlikable, I would say, especially once you get to know them in their POVs, and you just want to keep turning the pages to find out what actually is going on. I honestly had such a good time with this one. Yes, it took me longer to read than I was originally hoping, but I flew through the back half of this book so quickly. I think my last update was 2 days ago or something like that, and I could not put it down. In terms of ranking oldest versus newest releases by Freida, I would definitely recommend her later books more so than her earlier books. Obviously, a lot of growth happens during years of writing, but I think if you're looking for something actually super suspenseful, very mysterious, and plot twists that come out of left field but also still make a lot of sense, I would definitely recommend her later releases. Especially with this one, a lot of issues that I have with some of her older releases is just the cringy inner dialogue, the cringy descriptions, the cringy thoughts that the characters have. I didn't feel that as much in this one. I was actually very surprised by the plot twists and what ended up happening with this one. It was a wild ride, did not see the ending coming, and I just honestly flew through it. The writing was very captivating and very easy to get into, minus some of the asides that Blake had about the women around him. Didn't love those, but in comparison to her older books, definitely more of an engaging writing style, definitely more of a suspenseful voice, and a plot that drags you along. I would argue that with her older books, very introductory. All of this does make sense, of course, because writers develop their voice, they develop their skills, they develop their storytelling as years go on. Her older books, I would argue, are definitely perfect choices for those beginner thriller readers, people who want to dive into the genre but don't want anything super over the top or too intense to start off, to kind of just dip their toes into the pool of thrillers. Especially with books like Brain Damage. Of course, I don't have my copies of her 2 oldest books with me right now, but of course with Brain Damage, you have a very light thriller, I would say, in terms of the plot. And while the X is a little bit more unhinged, it's nothing super crazy like I would say happens in The Tenant and some of the author's other newer releases. As somebody who has read a lot of her books at this point, I can definitely see the growth and the change in the writing and the storytelling, and I think it's starting to work for me officially. I don't know if it just took me a while to get into the way that she tells her thrillers, the way that she writes, or just me kind of letting go of all of the pre-notions that I have going into her books a lot of times, just based off some of the other ones that I'd read by her months ago before starting this video. But I've really been enjoying the books I've been picking up by this author recently for the most part, and honestly, I plan to keep reading her. My goal for Bookmas this year is to actually do a Freida McFadden tier ranking video where I tier rank all the books by her that I have read. I don't plan to have read all of them by the end of this year, but I do plan to have a pretty good repertoire of books that I have read by her. Would I recommend her older books versus her newest book? I would definitely probably go with The Tenant, just based off my own personal reading tastes. But I do very much see the benefit of starting off with some of her older releases if you kind of want to dip your toes into the genre, dip your toes into the way that she chooses to tell thrillers, and just have a very good time overall, even if you're not getting those super suspenseful, super intense, super like heart-racing moments like I got in The Tenant several times, especially at the end. I do think that there's merit to both her oldest books and her newest books. I did not dislike anything that I read for this vlog, which I am very happy with. I actually really enjoyed The X until the very end. Brain Damage was a very easy and engaging thriller that made me want to know what was going to happen, even if I wasn't on the edge of my seat the entire time. And of course, this book was insane, but like in a great way. So honestly, I would recommend all of these books. Let me know if you've read any books by Freida McFadden in the description down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on her and her books and which one might be your favorite by her. That is all that I have for today's video reading Freida McFadden's oldest books and her newest books. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.